Audio and Braille literacy enhancement has worked with blind children since our beginnings, and that's why we actually came into existence, is because there was a missing piece for blind children in the schools. And we're doing that work to this very day. What's different in today's world in teaching blind children and sighted children is that, when we grew up in the 60s and 70s, we had our math book, we had our science book, we had one book for every class, and that was the material for the whole year. Now, there are so many day-to-day materials that are handed out to sighted children, in that if those materials aren't available to blind kids, they can't compete on a level playing field. We're here as a team of staff and volunteers to make sure that those Braille materials and tactiles are in the hands of our MPS students at the same time as their peers, so that they can follow along and actually do the work in an intelligent way, rather than having to constantly catch up or not participate because they don't have the right tools. We did a chapter book for a little girl a few years ago. It was the story of Eric Weinmeier, and he's the first blind person to climb Mount Everest. And it was a Thursday, and they were going to read that story on a Monday, and I went to one of our amazing volunteers, Audrey, who actually has given over 20,000 hours of volunteer time. I said, Audrey, they actually are going to read this book on Monday. Is there any way that you can get this Braille chapter book done before Monday, so that we can make sure this little girl has it at the same time as her sighted peers? That was quite a feat to make happen. But as director and as a blind person, it just broke my heart to think that we'd have this blind child in this room, and her peers are reading about this amazing blind man, and she doesn't have the book in her hands. So we're constantly working to make sure that our MPS students have those materials at the same time as their peers, and so that they have a fair and equal education. At Audio and Braille Literacy Enhancement, we have a very unique position, I think, in the community, because we work with all kinds of organizations who serve the sighted public, but blind people or visually impaired people may also come to those services. So our impact at ABLE is making sure that organizations throughout the community are keeping in mind, if somebody who is visually impaired come through their doors, are they prepared with audio and Braille materials? We've worked really hard to build relationships over the years, whether it be Milwaukee County Transit system, that they come to us on a regular basis for any of their Braille and audio needs, to a new relationship we have with the Milwaukee Public Museum. We've worked with the Milwaukee Public Museum about 3 years, and have helped change their paradigm at the museum from just look, don't touch, to how can we make our exhibits accessible from the ground up. And they really have embraced that shift. We work very closely with Dawn Kasea, who's the accessibility coordinator at the museum, and have a tremendous partnership. And what that means is that when blind children go to the museum with their family, that they have ways to participate that have meaning for them. It's interesting because we had our 50th anniversary celebration in September 29th, and we actually had the celebration at the museum, and we showed off the exhibit, the Crossroads of Civilization exhibit. And we have not only Braille materials, but also there are touch objects that came out of our consultation with them. Over the holidays, a family came in with a blind child, and somebody at the museum said, we've got this exhibit that is accessible. Are you interested? They had no connection with ABLE, and it was just a family coming into the museum for the day. And that kind of impact will happen again and again as word gets out about the museum. Our goal is to make sure that the Braille and audio needs are met by organizations so that blind people are integrated in every facet in life. Another organization we're connecting with is the Urban Ecology Center, and we just did a Braille booklet describing their 11 objects that they have on site for people to look at and people to touch, and now they have a Braille description of those objects as well. So we're just continuing to forge connections and build on connections that we've had for years and years, whether it be the Milwaukee Symphony Orchestra or Milwaukee Public Schools. At Audio and Braille Literacy Enhancement, we do all kinds of materials for blind students. And in fact, Braille is a key tool for people who are working on a foreign language. We're actually doing German materials and Spanish materials for students right now. Through the years, I know many blind people who have taken foreign languages, and I think the key for success in doing a foreign language is actually having Braille available. I myself took Latin in high school and had all my materials in Braille, and that it's really very accessible. I think it's more challenging without Braille skills, that you really need to use audio. So I think the key is being able to read those words with your fingertips and actually have that opportunity to memorize, as well as using audio tools to listen to how language sounds.